Don't blink. It's your boy Ink. Welcome to our show. Guys are doing well. Having a wonderful day on this 8th April 2025. Today we're gonna be nerding out. If you don't mind, of course, I'm gonna be nerding out about the one and only Star Wars. So a lot of people are talking about the new Star Wars. They're gonna be talking about the Anakin the Skywalker theory. I'm not. To me, Star Wars finished it with a sixth. So we had the first, which is Phantom Menace. We had Attack of the Clones. We had Revenge of the Sith. We have the Return of the Jedi. We had the Force Awakens, and we had I don't remember the sixth one, but you know what I mean. There's of course the Attack of the Clones, which to me is one of the best thing that they did, and the cartoon, but they also the kind of like better animated. A lot of people are talking about their favorite character from back then. I see a lot of people talking about Anakin. A lot of people talking about Obi-Wan. I'm definitely more of an Obi-Wan, and in my opinion, those are the two most important characters. Now, of course, you're gonna be talking about Princess Leia. I'm gonna be talking about Princess Leia. I'm gonna be talking about Senator Palpatine. We're gonna talk about. I'm a nerd, dude. Jar Jar Binks. I don't know why you're talking about Jar Jar Binks, right? I don't know why you're talking about it, but if you are, you are. I don't know. Up to you, I guess. My favorite was Obi-Wan. First of all, in the end, it's a battle versus a Sith, which is Anakin, and a battle versus a Jedi, which is Obi-Wan, right? To me, Obi-Wan was the perfect characters. Now, ultimately speaking, that is kind of true, kind of not true. I do really like Ahsoka. I really like the character of Ahsoka, and I really like how they portrayed Anakin and the Attack on the Clone. I think it was beautiful. But I have to give it to Obi-Wan for a couple of reasons. Obi-Wan is my GOAT, and the reason is the first movie he loses his master, right? And he isn't technically ready to become a Jedi. He's still a Padawan, right? He has a Padawan garbs, he has a Padawan haircut, right? Which is kind of cool because you got this. So when you get Anakin, right? You get his rise to the Force. So at first he doesn't have any training. The second one he has a training. The third one he's almost a Jedi Master, right? Obi-Wan, although you don't see at the beginning of the training, you don't see is it's a beautiful thing. It's almost this duality. Yes, you don't see Obi-Wan in the academy, right? You don't see it, but it is there, right? So you understand that he has this training and he had this. It's almost more conventional, but he was a normal Jedi versus somebody like Anakin, who wasn't normal in any shape or form. Also, what I love him is because he is kind of the Jedi, but he's kind of cool. He has a lot of Qui-Gon Jinn in him. Qui-Gon Jinn was willing to accept. Qui-Gon Jinn was willing to accept that there's difference in the Force. Qui-Gon Jinn was able to accept that there's possibly somebody other than a embodiment of Force. So embodiment of Force would be like a god, right? So the Force is an entity with its own will and its own power of decision. So if you follow the Force, you'll be able to become like a Jedi. Are actually kind of, in my opinion, they're actually like a holy warrior, if you will, and they follow the teaching of the Force and they follow the sense of the Force. They sense in the Force that they should do this, right? Qui-Gon Jinn was actually very close to the Force. So a lot of people are gonna say that Qui-Gon Jinn had a better understanding of the Force than most, and I think that's cool because the better you understand something, the more you're able to comprehend possibly how it works. So if you have if you're good at chess, you're gonna be able to create some move because you understand how the board work, how everything works, right? That's what I'm going with this. So Qui-Gon Jinn, I don't know if Obi-Wan was as close as the Force as Qui-Gon Jinn, but he had a teaching of Qui-Gon Jinn. So if Qui-Gon Jinn fought a certain way, he taught Anakin to do it. It's not about teaching a blind man to see. It's about teaching a blind man to walk. Anakin learned to walk from a blind man, but he's still able to walk. Now, the beautiful thing about the how good the prequel was. I'm a defender of the prequel. Of course, I was born in the 90s. The fuck do you expect? The reason why I love so much is because there's a possibility that if Qui-Gon Jinn was the master, it would have been different. There's a possibility that if Qui-Gon Jinn was still alive, Obi-Wan would have not allowed Anakin to be as independent as he was, right? And there's also this other problem in the prequel, and yes, we're seeing it more in the fourth, fifth, sixth one. Is we're not really seeing another apprentice. We're not really seeing other apprentices how they work. We're not really seeing the relationship between a Jedi Master and a Jedi Padawan, right? We're seeing a little bit of Qui-Gon Jinn and Anakin, but Obi-Wan, but not enough to be able to judge for yourself. And the thing with Obi-Wan was he was so young, and he kind of treated Anakin like a younger brother. There's such a chemistry between the two, between Ewan McKellen and Chris Hayden. There was such a chemistry. They were like brothers, right? And it really felt like that. And I think that the line of I have to respect my master, and I'm not saying that Anakin wasn't respectful towards Obi-Wan, but it wasn't always a relationship of student and teacher. There's often time where it was a relationship of like two older brothers, two older siblings, and that's what we love. That's why we love Obi-Wan and Anakin. But we cannot. There's it's such a beautiful art. We cannot deny that he didn't feel towards Anakin some sort of emotion, right? I'm not saying love, but yeah, some kind of love, I guess. See, Obi-Wan was always saying, the Jedi Council was always saying, like, don't follow emotion, don't fall in love. And then because Obi-Wan felt a kinship towards Anakin, he felt some type of way, he allowed more, which allowed Anakin to fall in love, which allowed Anakin to marry Princess Padme. And that's where it led, right? So when he comes on Mustafa, Anakin is already like a Sith. He already has a Sith. He plans on killing Palpatine. He already killed some youngling, which you shouldn't do, but he does. So even though Obi-Wan comes in, even though Obi-Wan comes in, it's nuts because I'm doing this video because I saw a video of the fight in a musical. So it's Elf Tell on YouTube, and they do a Star Wars musical. So they go to Mustafa, right? And he would have been fighting Obi-Wan nonetheless. But the thing that makes him angry is because Obi-Wan comes with Padme. And the first thing he says is, you turn her against me. And then Obi-Wan trying to say, you done that to yourself. It's tough. Obi-Wan becomes such a victim. And after that he becomes Ben Kenobi, which is a older man, but still very, very strong Jedi, right? But Obi-Wan in itself is the guy who wasn't able to stop something, who wasn't able to guide. See, there's this, we're talking about the 90s, so there's this movie called Seabiscuit, which was a jockey, which was Tobey Maguire, was too tall, and a horse that was too small, but together they make this team, right? So Obi-Wan, was he the right master for Anakin? There's no way to know. There's no way to know. I believe there's a right teacher. I believe there's a wrong student. But if you look at it, even if you look at it, like Count Dooku, who became a Sith Lord, had a student which was Qui-Gon Jinn, right? That's another big part of Obi-Wan and Anakin. If Qui-Gon Jinn was still alive, would he have fought Count Dooku? And the craziest thing in my book, in my opinion, is at the end of the first movie, Qui-Gon Jinn dies, and then the Count Dooku starts to fight, and the second one and the third one, was he fighting because it was his turn to fight, or was he fighting because Qui-Gon Jinn was no longer there, right? So the way it works in my books, is like a family tree. So the only way to see the relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan is to see the relationship between Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn. Now, the only way to see the relationship between Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn would be to see the relationship between Qui-Gon Jinn and Count Dooku, right? And that's pretty much it. That is pretty much it. And to me, this is beautiful because you understand that there's layer to it. You're gonna do. I was talking with Skylar and her friends today about. I came in live and she invited me to a corner before I even knew what was talking about, and then they started talking about how men were mistreating women. And my point of view was, well, it's most of the time it's because they're seeing their parents do it. So if one of the parents is abusive towards the other parents, the kids are gonna reproduce because that's the way they're seeing relationship. That's their blueprint. So I believe that this is the way a Padawan will see his master. Is how a master saw his own Padawan. See, Qui-Gon Jinn, even then, it's a beautiful thing. It's so masterful. It's the domino effect in the purest of form. Qui-Gon Jinn saw the Force in a different way, and you can right away see that when he's willing to try to train Anakin, and that's like no. Usually a Jedi would be like, okay, well Yoda said no, the Council said no. Qui-Gon Jinn is like, fuck you, dude, fuck you, I'm gonna do what I want, right? And then Anakin saw that. Obi-Wan saw that, and he was like, okay, well, this is how a Jedi Master is. And Qui-Gon Jinn, in my opinion, was the ultimate Jedi because he wasn't blinded by the. So, in my opinion, the Jedi fell because they weren't allowing themselves to see the Force from the dark side. They were constantly blinded by the Force and the Jedi Order and the Jedi rules. And I've read a book about the Jedi rules and the Sith rules, which is super good, right? But the entirety of it is that Qui-Gon Jinn was able to say, well, I believe in that and I don't believe in that, right? And it's amazing because Qui-Gon Jinn was able to ascend to the council. And it sucked because you saw Qui-Gon Jinn ascend to the council, but then you don't see anybody ascend to the council, right? And there's a lot of people that could ascend to the council. For example, Mace Windu. He was closer to the dark side of the Force because of his purple lightsaber than others, right? Because why purple is closer? Well, because a lot of Jedi have a blue lightsaber and a lot of Sith have a red lightsaber. You put them together, it's purple. Is it something that actually makes sense? Possibly. Is it true? I don't know. But he was able to sense that Palpatine was a Sith. If he was able to convince the council by saying, dude, you're not seeing shit. We're being tracked down by a Sith, and I know who it is. If he was able to say who it is, or at the very least, in his opinion, who it was, then there could have been a sort of sense of, okay, well, I understand what you mean. I know that this is possibly right. I know that you possibly saw something that we didn't see. Let's investigate him. Palpatine, yes, was a villain. Yes, Palpatine was a genius. Yes, Palpatine had, he was very clever, right? But the only reason why Palpatine was able to go as far as he did was because he understood the Sith, he understood the Jedi Order, the Jedi rule, the Jedi way of life. He was able to use that as an advantage. See, the Council was so blinded by the fact that, there's only the right way to do the Force, there's only the Jedi way. The Siths are wrong, right? And ultimately speaking, even with Anakin, there's this talk of you follow them blindly, right? But then again, Obi-Wan says, my allegiance to the Republic, to democracy, right? And that's super important because that's his belief. You're seeing people disabuse, right? You saw people disabuse. And Anakin saw a flawed system, right? A flawed system. Now, Obi-Wan and Anakin, the reason why this fight is so important is because they both saw the flawed council, and Obi-Wan was like, okay, well, the council is flawed, so it needs somebody to fix it, or at least support the flawed system. And Anakin was like, no, I'll burn to the ground now, I'll reawaken it. The original plan for Anakin was to kill Palpatine, right? The original plan, and a lot of people are saying that this would be the true Darth Vader. The Darth Vader that we had was broken. The Darth Vader what we had had no choice, right? So that's what I think. But then with the council, if Palpatine didn't understand how the council work or didn't manipulate the council, nothing would have happened. The old Order 66, the Sith didn't win. The Sith didn't win. The Sith did not win versus the Jedi. The clone did. The clone were made to kill the Jedi versus Order 66. That's why the Attack of the Clone, the series, is so important, because we're seeing people work with the Jedi. We're seeing Captain Rex. We're seeing the Wolf Squad, right? And then they're with the Ahsoka, and they're with Anakin, and they're truly in a position of, okay, well, this is how we are able to fight. And it's sort of funny because there's a couple of Jedi that resisted the Order 66, right? So we're seeing it in the Fallen Order. We're seeing it in a lot of places, but even if some Jedi resisted, the clone knew how they worked. The clone knew how they fought. There was no way. The only survivor in my books are people that fled. Ahsoka fled, so she survived. Anakin was Darth Vader. Obi-Wan fled. Yoda fled. And there's so little Jedi left that, you know what I mean, right? And that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. And this is why. But even then, the whole system of a Eritori midichlorian, the reason why Rey has Jedi power, because she's the daughter of Palpatine. Well, she's the descendant of Palpatine. I don't remember if she's the daughter of or what. I don't even watch those. Kylo Ren also. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. You know, we are lucky to have something so complete. You know, and I feel like with Star Wars, I feel like you're able to protect yourself by just watching the first 6 movies. Then you can watch the series, right? They're connected to it, but there's no need for it. Like, for example, right? Lord of the Ring, which is also from that time period. Lord of the Ring, yes, it's a really good trilogy. You can have the Hobbit, and that's also great. You don't have to have the Ring of Power, right? You don't have to have the Ring of Power. You do not have to. And that's the it. And also, we have this whole discussion right now on this 8th April 2025 of Snow White and how come they changed the classic and how they disfigure the classic and the consequence of disfiguring a classic, right? So we're seeing that in this case. So with Star Wars, it's the exact same thing. And that is pretty much it.